Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
It's another Sunday night, so of course, it's another episode of Explain Yourself. We've got some great creators to talk to, which we'll bring in a second. But Joey, first, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. Look, I'm outside and I've got a 4-year-old who is up a little too late, so I might cut in and out here, but I'm glad we got a bunch of really great guests to talk to because it's gonna help fill up some time if I need to cut out off camera and audio for a second. But dude, I've been excellent, man. How have you been doing?
Doing good. We've been having some crazy weather. It snowed yesterday,
Oh my
and then
gosh.
today it was like 65, so it's been up and down.
You
But
want to
other
talk
than that,
about crazy weather? We are at 100 degrees
oh my
in
God,
Arizona. We hit triple digits. It hasn't come down. We're at that point now where it's getting to it doesn't get past 80 degrees at all day long. So
wow.
I'm sitting out here. It's pretty warm.
Yeah, I was going to mow the
So
lawn yesterday morning. I woke up, look outside, I see some ice and some snow. I'm like, all right, well, that ain't happening.
hey, let's trade for a little while, just for a little bit.
Oh no, I wouldn't trade in. I don't like the heat. I do like Arizona, but I've had a good time there every time I visited. But yeah, I'm not. 100
We
degrees is about
we
where I check out.
it's this year's been really weird. It went from 0 to 100 really fast, too quick for me. But no, man, it's been great. This weekend's been awesome. We've done a lot of really fun stuff. We just came back from watching the Minecraft movie and hanging out with the big boys. So
Oh.
um, I'm doing good though, man.
Did it get crazy? I've heard the people are getting pretty rowdy with the Minecraft.
Yeah,
There's a chicken that does
yeah, we
something,
went.
and
So
people
we
throw things
chose.
in.
Yeah, I've seen all those stupid TikToks, and my son has been keeping me informed. Um, but yeah, I mean, it did not get ready. We intentionally chose a Sunday morning showing,
Mhm.
like the first showing, on purpose, so that we could just. I listen. I've got three autistic guys at home, so it's really yeah, chicken jockey. Um, so I had I knew it was gonna get a little rowdy in there, especially around that time of the movie. So, but anyway, yeah, man, it's been a blast. It's a really good movie,
Cool.
actually. Love it.
All right. Well, I'll have to check it out, or at least have my nephews explain to me what in God's name
Chicken
it all
jockey.
means.
I still barely listen. I don't want to say it out loud because I still don't get
Fair enough. But we have some great
it.
creators to talk to today, and we're excited to bring them in and hear about their books. We're going to bring in Dan Price, Braxton Cosby, and Dennis Valencia. Guys, thanks for coming on the show. It's great to have you here.
Hey guys, welcome.
Thanks so much
Hey,
for having us.
All right. So you guys have some awesome books to share with us. We're going to start with Braxton, and we're going to bring up his website where he keeps all his comics. I should mention that we're going to throw all these places in the comments or in the show description. So if you see some stuff you like, we hope you do, you'll head over to these websites and check it out. But I'm going to let Braxton take the floor here. Tell us about your comics. It's what we got on screen now. What books you're kind of working on now, and just what your overall universe is, what you're doing with it.
Yeah, I'm Braxton Cosby. I'm the CEO of Cosby Media Productions. We're a small press publisher down here in Atlanta, Georgia. We've published over 30 authors with 60 different titles in ebooks, audiobooks, and paperbacks since 2014. In 2021, we decided to add a comic imprint to our company, and that was Star Child Comics. So far, we've published over 12 comics. We've got one compendium. I'll talk about that in a little bit, and we're continuing to push out a couple more this year. So we're averaging about 3 to 4 comics a year. What we do is what we call hybrid publishing. So we actually publish our stories in both novels and comics. So you may start off reading a book in a series that's a novel. Book 2 will probably end up being like a comic book, and we may go back to a novel again, or we'll just extend it and expand that world into comic books. What we did in 2020 when we decided to kick this whole thing off is we have been creating our own superhero universe. Me and 5 other authors had contributed at the time 16 different superhero novels, and we decided that we wanted to just kind of push it a little bit forward in 2020. So we ran a Kickstarter to add to our storytelling. So basically, I had contributed 4 novels of the Cape series. Kaio Champion had contributed 2 of the Majesties of Canaan. Daniel Payton had 3 of the Bark series. Keyshawn Dodds had 4 of the Menzuo series, and then Lawrence St. John had 4 of his Metatron series. I said, look, guys, we don't want to retell any of these stories. Let's go forward. Let's push the envelope. So advancing the stories was our big focus. And so every comic book that you see here that's listed that has a series associated with it, these now represent maybe book 5 of the series or book 3 of the series. So people who come and get involved in our universe that we've created, they're going to have a nice little mix and a hodgepodge of novels and comics, so they can kind of move back and forth. This depends on what you really like to read. And a lot of people say, well, I haven't read the novels yet. What would I do with the comic books? We intentionally made sure we told those stories in a way where it feels a separate contribution to that world, where if you're not caught up after reading the comic book, you'll probably want to go back and get some of that backstory. But that adventure that happened in that comic book is really like a standalone, and you really don't miss much. But I think most people do get interested in what we've created and want to jump back in.
Very cool. So, I mean, I love the idea of telling. I'm trying to do that with my stuff too. Is I want some stuff to be a game. I want some stuff to maybe be a card game within the same sort of franchise. Just to, I think that having something besides just the comic just gives you such a deeper way of engaging with the world.
Absolutely.
And it just, I think it makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah, but, and it was cool because the conventions, right? I don't know, you guys go to conventions as well. You run into so many people. You're like, what do you like to read? Well, I read comic books. Well, I read novels. Well, you know, people come to my table. I say, hey, what do you like to read? They say a little bit of everything. So we got a little bit of everything, you know. So it made it more marketable and easier to kind of share your worlds that you created with the audience that comes around to the tables.
Yeah, very cool. So a lot of people that we talk to have kind of their superhero universes. You've obviously built out a ton of this with your team, but most, you know, a lot of times with indie comics doing superheroes, everybody usually has like a kind of a specific take. It's like, well, the Avengers, but it's kind of coming at it from this angle. Right. Is there kind of a unique way that you're approaching your world and setting up all your characters that's kind of different than what people can get at the shops every week?
Well, I think one thing is that we had creators who actually had their stories in motion, right? So all their origin stuff, it was separate. What we did is we went into the books and we kind of referenced maybe something happening, occurring in another part of the universe. So those characters were kind of out there. Maybe it's a news report. Maybe it's just one of the other superheroes talking about, hey, you know, I've heard of this other guy named so-and-so. Maybe he can help with what we're dealing with. So they referenced. So this world was always alive and moving in its own parts. And then we ended up having our first collaboration where we had the crossover, where me, Keyshawn Dawes, and Kyle Champion actually put all our characters into one book, what was called Infinity 7, Gods Among Men. That was the first one. So that's kind of our Avengers Assemble, as you brought that up earlier. So if you scroll down, you'll see Infinity 7 Part 1 right there. And that's where you get 14 superheroes in one novel. And it was basically a really a labor of love, trying to coordinate who took what chapters and how we kept things very authentic to the way those characters interact when the other author was writing it. So we would write a chapter, I'd pass it on to the other guys. If their characters were referenced, they would check and say, yeah, you know, so-and-so will probably be something like this. And we just kept it real fluid. It was an amazing undertaking. And then we were able to move on to Infinity 7, War of Gods. And there was really this overarching storyline called the Dark Spore Saga, which kind of brought everybody together. And we were able to close it out in Infinity 2. And now the comics and the novels that are coming out now are just expanding on that. So as you can see right above Infinity 7, War of Gods, you see the Cape, the Fabulous Five, which is right there. No, you were right.
Oh, this one here. Gotcha.
That's my latest comic book, and that continues to push the story of the Cape series, and that picks up right where the events of Infinity 7, War of Gods end. So the universe is constantly expanding and moving forward, even though we took out that big story arc with that antagonist, Stratus, and that storyline. Now we're building, and we've already got a great foundation, so we just continue. I know that Menzuo, the next book in that series, Keyshawn Dodge already turned that in, so that's being worked on with the editor. And Lawrence St. John has the next Metatron coming soon. So we're just excited just to continue to write something that we feel is really, really authentic. It's told from storytellers who really love comics and superhero novels. And like I said, it's all of our babies. So this wasn't something that we just did just to kind of get involved. It was something that were stories that were living inside of us from past love of comic books and superheroes. So we wanted to create our own world. And when we came together to form this one universe, it was just like magic.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't think I've heard of a lot of people taking that approach where you're kind of bringing together your own stories, putting them in the same universe.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it sounds like you're kind of working in some ways. I'm sure each of you primarily writes this story or that story, but you're kind of passing it back and forth with different characters. And it's
Mm-hmm.
almost kind of like a writer's room approach a little bit,
Absolutely.
where somebody's taking a character and doing their stuff. It's, that's, I think, pretty unusual for comics, but it
Mm-hmm.
makes so much sense to do. I'm surprised that it is.
Right. And it's magic, man. I tell you, when we get in those rooms, we start talking, we'll do like a Zoom call. Somebody say, hey, where are we going with the novels and this and that? People just get so excited. You get to see their eyes light up when they start talking about where their next story arc is going to go and where that character is going to develop. And then so now we're so used to one another's characters actually knowing their storyline. Like we're kind of like, oh man, is this going to get addressed? And what happened with this? Oh, that's really cool because I remember when. So we're just having a huge romp, just kind of talking about all these characters. So we all just kind of get excited for each other too, just to kind of see where it goes.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool that you guys it sounds like in a lot of ways the novels came first.
Oh, they did.
It's mostly what you kind of go to, or maybe it was your initial point of entry. I mean, when I was a kid and they put out novels that were covering, like they had a Nightfall novel, they had different Batman stories that were just prose. Some of them short stories, some of them larger stories. And I mean, I couldn't get enough of that stuff. I read every dang one of those. Was that something that you kind of remembered when you were a kid and you wanted to kind of recreate that, or are you just novelists that also like superheroes and wanted to just do it that way?
My big inspiration for me personally with writing superhero fiction was really just to kind of get young men to read. By the time I got into writing the Cape storyline, I already completed a young adult sci-fi trilogy called the Star-Crossed Saga, and my audience was really mainly girls. They loved it. They loved the characters and where the story was going. So I was like, man, I really want to get these guys excited. What do I need to write about? And I had already, it was funny, I was in the fifth grade. I remember years ago, I was fifth grade, I had done my own comic book, just something I sketched out on paper. It was like a 6-page comic with some characters. And I never even dreamed of doing a comic book, anything really, really serious, So when it came around to kind of how would I get kids, and I noticed that that's when the Marvel stuff really started picking up with all the movies and things like that. I was like, man, young men are really getting excited about reading, at least getting involved in something. What if I told my own superhero story and kind of brought some of those imaginings back of those characters I kind of created before? And that's basically what I did, is dove in with this crazy story of the Cape, centered around a reality TV kind of thing. I made it really modern with these drones that kind of follow all the characters' exploits throughout the day. And they have this show at the end of the day called The Night Watch. And this storm comes to Chicago in 2035. Whoever gets caught in a storm wakes up with superpowers. So you basically have this petri dish of people with superpowers, and I could just always create and just pull from over and over again. I never had to worry about where I would get heroes from. And the city of Chicago actually adopted the heroes to be like their protectors, bring crime down. And they had to allow the drones to follow their exploits throughout the day, cut the footage, and then put a show on. So it brought revenue to the city in mass amounts. But those who decided to use their powers for good were a group called Dark Phase, and they were slowly kind of picking each other off one by one. And the city just said, hey, listen, as a mandate, Capes, we're going to make you guys celebrities. We're going to put you up in high rises, give you endorsements. And the one rule you can't do is you can't harm a human. And one day the most powerful superhero in my world actually comes on TV and admits to killing a human. So it becomes this whole murder mystery story that just started from there. And it just got crazier and crazier as I wrote it. And I just fell in love with the characters. I ended up working with an artist to do the first comic book in the Cape series, Hellfire. If you scroll down, his name is Bruno Abdias. And he's actually gone on to do the Cyborg series. So if you click on it, they have a couple of pages you guys can actually see.
No, sorry, it's taking a second here. We got a lot going here, but
that's fine. Yeah, but
that's awesome.
His inspiration, man, Bruno is just an amazing artist, and you just have to give him like a couple of things to work with on the script for the comic, and he just goes to work. And like just the angles, his panels is amazing. His shadow and lighting is just unparalleled, and I just loved working with him. So it gave me I actually learned more from him just as a writer, as an artist, of what people can do and what you can expect artists to do with panels and pages and how you can design them up. And he was just amazing. So I'll tell you, if there's anybody out there who's like a budding writer who wants to kind of get into comic book script writing, There's a couple of books that I use. One of the main ones that I still go to today is The Art of Comic Book Writing. That like gives you like the holy grail of writing comics, but even more so, pairing yourself with an amazing artist who will actually show you their skill set, and you guys kind of draw one another. That's what made the Cape Hellfire a huge success.
Yeah, I love the take that you're kind of describing, because I think it would happen if we did have superheroes or something like that. I mean, you just look at even in different industries, you've got cities or states giving huge tax breaks to, say, movies to get them to come here, and then other places like saying, hey, maybe we don't like the hassle, we're not going to give you any incentives. And you think about something like this happen, and you're like, yeah, there would be some city that does the math on that and says, okay, if we can kind of make this work for us, we can incentivize people to come here, do their thing, and make that just work for us. That's a very cool insight, and I think it's one I haven't really seen. I mean, there's a lot of reality show superhero stuff I've seen. There's stuff that kind of shows the tension between like normal people and superheroes, but I think just that one insight is like a very cool, like, yeah, that would absolutely happen, and would be a very cool dynamic of something like this happening.
Yeah,
it's cool stuff. So we're going to switch over to Homebrewed and their books. So Dennis and Dan, tell us a little bit about your books and what you're working on now, and kind of what this whole thing is.
Take it away, Dan.
Dan, we can't hear you.
It always helps when I unmute, doesn't it? All right. All right. Yeah, no. So we're kind of new on the scene. We're Homebrew Comics. We're myself, Dan Price, as well as Chris Sahloff, Drew Lenhart, and Dennis Valencia have formed up Homebrew here recently. We each have our own projects we've been working on for a couple of years now, and now have come together, bringing our skills together, trying to make a run of it as a group. So it's been pretty exciting over the last couple of months getting this off the ground. I'll speak a little bit about Crit as well as Bigfoot Knows Karate, and then I'll let you talk about CK versus CP and all that stuff, Dennis. We have a couple of different campaigns coming up over the next couple of months, starting off with Crit, Constantly Running into Trouble. This book is done by Chris Sahloff and his team, and it's a book based on a D&D campaign that Chris and his friends play, and they've recorded the campaign and turned it into a comic book. And they're in their 8th issue, and the 8th issue it goes into the Arthurian legend, which should be pretty outstanding. But the book by itself is definitely action adventure, action comedy. If you think about it, kind of like more like the other guys, movies like that. It's a lot of fun and a lot of great movie references, pop culture references, things like that. Really funny project. And so that goes on Kickstarter on April 30th. It'll be doing a 30-day campaign. So we're really looking forward to that one, because also it's the 8th issue of Crit, but it's also the 5th anniversary of the book. And so it's kicking off, these 3 big campaigns that we're doing. And then my book is Bigfoot Knows Karate. So Bigfoot Knows Karate, it's the tale of a gentle yet deadly cryptid warrior forced into battle forced into this world where anyone could be the hunter and anyone could be the prey. In the first issue, out of nowhere, he gets into a battle with Kung Fu Thulu and the ultimate monster showdown. So we liken the book to Godzilla versus Kong meets Kill Bill with a twist. Really, and it goes further off the rails from there. You got characters like Chupacabra with a shotgun, and there's Mothman and Minotaur, you name it, they're all running through the book. So we're starting chapter 3, Hellhound on My Trail. That'll be hitting Kickstarter on May 14th. And we're going to be doing a 32-day campaign, just because I have a signing on that 32nd day that I want to kind of close out on at the same time. And then I'm going to let Dennis talk about CK versus CP and about Caspian Porter and Celestial Knight as a whole.
Yeah. So as Dan said, we were all independent creators. I've worked with these guys probably for the last 3-4 years, Dan, I think, if I remember correctly. And Drew Lenhart, who's the creator of Caspian, we worked together in a different capacity. I've done a couple of indie covers for him. Just one time, you guys are talking shop. He's like, we should always do a crossover. Like, we talk about it all the time. Let's do a crossover. My character kind of lines up with yours. And Drew just kind of said it like fleetingly. And it automatically just started something in my head. And I just said, hey, it would be really cool Caspian Porter basically, he's a space delivery man. So he gets into, crazy adventures as he's doing these deliveries, meeting different people, getting on different planets. And he said that fleetingly. And I thought to myself, well, my character is Celestial Knight. I actually created him, I just did the math, 38 years ago when I was 16. Shows how old I am. Stuck in my brain for quite a while. Finally got to kind of put him pen to paper. And I said, it'd be great. Like if my character, Celestial Knight, his sidekick is a dog named Norman. Caspian Porter has a sidekick named Kirby. I said, if he's doing a delivery, and I said, what if my guy was doing, had ordered something off Chewy.com for his dog, and then Caspian was the guy who was delivering it from another dimension. And then the hijinks that kind of came out of it. And it kind of just led into this crazy crossover. My guy, my first issue, Celestial Knight, it's origin issue, how he finds his powers, how Norman's involved, and he winds up fighting a kaiju in Times Square. I always say it's kind of like I'm the Cape book. It's like Old Yeller meets the Wu-Tang. Do a lot of hip hop references to it. But he fights a kaiju in Times Square. So I love drawing monsters. I love drawing metal. Like I love armor. That's my lane. And then Caspian is just a lot of fun, crazy adventures. He does the sci-fi stuff. So when I joined his crew, these guys are polished, and what I loved about them, they're so professional. And I always consider myself. I just joined these guys. Dan? What is it? A week and a half ago?
Oh, something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's the worst. It was the worst kept secret in indie comics. We love you.
Yes.
Come on now.
And the way I looked at it, we use the term we Voltroned up. We grow up, we got together, and we create this, hopefully this monster force. And then I always say, like, we're the four horsemen. And I come in to learn my talents, and these guys just have very established roles, and I'm here just to kind of do what I can to contribute. I love drawing. I've done a number of indie covers last year, and that's kind of where I took a little bit of time off for issue 2, and I'm finishing up issue 2 now, but I kind of just expanding my origin story to 3-issue arc. But CPCK, what we did was we launched in June 21st, and strangely enough, guys, I don't know if anyone's going to be at Heroes Con in Charlotte. Yeah, Braxton, thumbs up. Let's meet up.
Absolutely.
Dude, you got to hang out with Braxton, Dennis. Braxton was across the aisle from me at Heroes last year. And man, I enjoyed your company so much, dude. Right. You have no idea. So y'all got it.
You were great, Dan. Love this stuff.
That was awesome.
Yeah, Braxton, we were on the other end by the bathroom, like other far end by the bathroom. It was a good spot. You can't get right, everyone has to go to the bathroom, so everyone was coming by our table. So
yeah, I was just about to say, I'm like, that could be a real positive or a real negative.
Yeah, well. Wow.
That's
why you do a con, say, hey, put me by the bathroom. It's a good spot. But we're going to launch June 21st. It actually happens to be one of the days at Heroes. So I don't know how I'm going to do it. I might do it from the con and hit that launch button with Drew. Drew will be at home. But our book is CPCK. This is actually the ash can. You can get it at homebrewcomics.com. But just a preview ash can. Just a little teaser. It's all black and white. What's super cool, I am actually inking and coloring, and I did the cover. Juan Fleites did all the art, and of course Drew Lenhart did the story. So pretty cool. Love to see what these guys me joining in, what we can kind of do this year.
So Braxton's team was kind of working together creatively, which I think is really awesome. And like I said, it seems unusual, but it really shouldn't be. It's a great way to work, I think. You guys are kind of coming together in some ways creatively, and also I think, what are you? This might be kind of a question we cover more in Joey's section, but what really makes you guys stronger combining like this? Kind of what makes it a little easier to get your comics out doing it that way?
So the big thing about it is everybody has their own strengths walking in the door. When I first met these guys, we all met over Instagram. There were certain things that kind of attracted us to each other. Chris, right out of the gate, we both really dug each other's marketing minds and business acumen and that sort of thing with each other right out of the gate. When I first met him, I was like, okay, this guy gets it. These guys came up with the concept of doing, I don't know if they came up with the concept, but they really honed the concept of doing a live launch shot for Kickstarters. And, which is something that I adopted and put my own spin on. Things like that. And we were really working, really just trying to get our information out there to people in different ways, shapes, and forms. And so Chris and I ended up doing a live launch together one night. We decided we both had campaigns that were going to launch approximately the same same time. Why go up against each other and launch at the same night and split the audience? So we just decided to go ahead and launch together. And we both funded our books in 15 minutes. And so it was like, okay, there's something here, and then I know that Chris and Drew were talking, and they had, they've been talking about what homebrew could be for quite a while before that. And then Dennis had ties with all of these guys as well, and Dennis had done cover work for me, and you've done stuff for Drew. And it was just kind of like, just a well-braided situation, so we're all coming at it differently creatively because it's not a shared universe that we're working in, but that I can bring, I've been the creative director for the last, I don't know how many years, been working in marketing and advertising for the last 25. So bringing that knowledge base to the team is something that I can contribute. Whereas, Drew is working on the websites. He's doing the digital distribution and all of that. Chris is working our physical distribution, that model over that direction, in which we have some cool plans that we have coming down the pike, that way, that we'll get on, later down the road. But, so it's nice when you're doing it all by yourself, it gets to be a lot. And we've all been in that situation where we're doing it all by ourselves. And that's like a one-handed juggling act. So to have everybody bring their expertise in and, share that knowledge with each other, or just handle that. I mean, okay, I have this marketing need, Dan, can you handle it? Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And so it takes some pressure off of us individually, and we get some expertise where we didn't have it previously.
That's very cool. So just before we move on to the next section, I kind of want to ask some creative questions about this. Dan,
Sure.
We'll start with you. So I'm not a big cryptid fan, or at least I wasn't until a couple years ago. My wife, a few years ago, drew a picture, maybe 10, 15 years ago, of something called the squonk, which apparently is popular in central Pennsylvania or something like that. And we went to the Squonk Fest in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which was just everybody there. It was a cryptid sort of outdoor festival. We had people dressed up as the Mothman, people dressed up as the squonk. Of course, there was a lot of Bigfoot, a lot of comic book stuff there, with all the different cryptids that you could, as many as you could imagine. So are you really big into that world? And does Bigfoot end up just kind of interacting with all sorts of different cryptids in his adventures? Like, how's that structured?
Am I big into that world? No. I got to be honest with you. Like, when I got into doing this stuff, I didn't know anything about Bigfoot. I mean, I was just me doodling some Bigfoot doing martial arts is how it all started. Initially it came up, it was supposed to be a comedy comic back in like 2014. And it was terrible. It was just terrible.
Comedy's tough to do in comics. Some people can do it really well though.
I did a lot of different comedy titles early on. That was my bread and butter. Yeah. And so this was supposed to live in that universe. And it wasn't working. So I shelved it. And I had taken a break from comics anyway, because I was, raising kids and that sort of thing. And when I came back to it, I started drawing the character in this more stoic manner and had these gaunt eyes. And I started thinking about it, like, if you were the only one of your kind in your species, what would that do to you and your psyche? And by the way, martial arts, and you've lived a long ass time, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of where it came from for me, more than like, I'm a big cryptid fan. I've grown to love them, through doing this book, initially doing the research about Bigfoot and, watching documentaries and doing some reading here and there and that sort of thing. I learned that nobody knows anything about Bigfoot anyway, so you might as well have a lot of fun with this. And so, I went and had a lot. I've just had a lot of fun playing, myself and my co-writer, Casey Allen, who I can't say enough great things about. Casey is just chef's kiss, man. He's the best. We love to get into the different lores and the different, legends and that sort of thing, and play with all of that. So whether it's like, kaiju that we're creating ourselves, like Thermonucleodon, or, playing around with, like the Minotaur in issue 2, which is, I can't remember his name, Asterion, which is named, the Asterion, the Minotaur, which is a star named after that. And, pulling the different legends, and bringing those into the stories, we have a lot of fun. I mean, we have a Mothman who's a seer, who's blind. I mean, what are you going to do? It's just, but, trying to take all of that and bring, make something relevant, to now, and to do something that's not trite, that's not, that just that same usual, like, for me, we were going to do a Bigfoot that does martial arts. Okay, that sounds cool, but like, is it going to be the same like revenge story that we've seen in so many different martial arts movies over the years? That's boring, So if you have nothing, no one, there's nothing to get revenge on, then what propels the story? So to try and eliminate all of that and go with a completely original concept, or as original as you can get in the modern age, we're doing our best, kids. I promise you. It just makes it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's just been, this book's been wild. I'm rambling now, so somebody tag. Somebody
no, but I think you're because I've had stories that I had a lot of trouble making work and came back to after a break. And I think what you kind of hit on there was like a visual of Bigfoot as we know him, which is kind of a silly figure at times, or it's scary or whatever. We have a certain viewpoint of him. And then suddenly he's a martial artist and he's stoic and he's this and that. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of funny, kind of has depth. And the visual of it is, I think, what you really need for comics. But Dennis, you mentioned visuals are really kind of what drove you to Celestial Knight. You love drawing armor and, reflections and stuff like that, kaiju. Did that kind of come first with creating this character? Or did you have kind of a plot point that you kind of developed that around the stuff you like to draw?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I started drawing when I was 16. That was, like I said, 38 years ago, more. He was actually called Star Knight. And then the next year I made him the Celestial Warrior. I was looking at a lot of Bob Layton art, and he was doing Iron Man.
Well, I can see that.
Yeah, I love
that cover's
the
got
armor.
Bob Layton all over it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And it was just one of those things where it kind of like, oh, cool. Like, I was a young kid, like, oh, he's actually drawing metal, and it looked really good. I love this run on what was it? It was Iron Man. It was like this particular cover where it was Iron Man versus the Hulk. I think Ant-Man was on the cover, and that thing just kind of sucked me in. Just sucked me into that little world. But yeah, it started with that. I didn't really get into the kaijus and the monsters till later when my art started developing. I took a long hiatus from art. How long am I married? It literally was the length of my relationship with my wife that I literally just stopped all art, and didn't get back into it until about 5 years ago, kind of going through a dark place. And my wife just said, "Hey, you haven't drawn in about 20 plus years. Why don't you pick up a pen?" So I started doing that. Discovered Instagram, did some blank sketch covers to keep busy, and then did some fan art. I started doing fan art. Then it got noticed by indie creator. Did a couple of covers for him, and then it took off from there. And then I think because I took such a long break from art, it's just kind of like I grew up watched my art was after John Burns. I did John Byrne and George Perez, my guys, right? I take this huge hiatus for 20-25 years where I barely even opened a book or looked at a book for a while, and then all of a sudden I get back into the world, and all of a sudden I'm looking at David Finch. I'm like, good Lord. I look at Steve McNiven, like, good Lord. And like the art has the inking is blowing my mind. And next thing you know, I'm like, ooh, I want to just draw like cool ass monsters, just a lot of detail, just crazy, let your imagination go. And then when I finally got to put this to print and in this book, you draw what you love, so just the best of what I loved. I drug on my character. I had some guys I was working with. They said, "Hey, you have any indie characters you want to do?" And this is at the time I was working with a bunch of creators. I was last in line. I said, "Yeah, I got one guy." They're like, "Let's see what it is." And this guy popped out, and I finally got the stones, to kind of put them in the print and do my own book. And I just, you do what you love, and I want to draw armored guys. And the story on this, he's one of 9, and it's the 9 circles of hell. It's the 9 planets. He's the 9th planet. It's Earth, and all the other, knights are all evil knights, and he's the only good one. And all 9 planets, and they come to Earth to take over that last planet. And it just evolved into like each one of them is a knight. They all have their sidekick, and their sidekick just happens to be a kaiju. And how am I bringing this all into one big world of destruction and mass chaos? So just fun, like just having a lot of fun. As Dan alluded to, I have the Cape book. Drew has that sci-fi kick. Dan has the cryptids, and Chris has, D&D wrapped up in a ball. So a little bit of everything in Homebrewed Comics, which I really love the fact that someone pulls up at the table. We have some intriguing things we can kind of throw at you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's a great way to wrap that up. We're going to take a quick break here and play a couple messages, and we'll come back. Joe asked some questions about the marketing, how you put the books together, all that fun stuff. So we'll be back in just a second.
Click that mouse and warp into All Ages of Geek's website, your ultimate portal to everything geek culture. Here you'll find articles that speak your language, from the latest anime buzz to the coolest tech trends. Our mission, to celebrate geekdom in all its glory. Whether you're a gamer, a comic enthusiast, a 90s kid, or an anime aficionado, we've got something for you. Dive deep into them with All Ages of Geek.
Your comics take a lot of time and effort to create. Way too much to have them get damaged while shipping to your backers. Gemini Comic Supply mailers keep your comics safe in transit, and with the code GeekCollective10, you can get those mailers with 10% off your order. That's GeekCollective10. Enter it at checkout to get 10% off. Oh, Joe, you're muted.
All right. I guess I should probably unmute things too. I thought it would anyway. Thank you guys for allowing us to be able to do that. We have some amazing sponsors. We have some creators over at All Ages of Geek that do some amazing things. If you guys like everything from anime to comic books to everything in between, check it out. They got some live stuff. They have a podcast. They have articles and tips and tricks and all kinds of really fun stuff that you guys want to check it out. So head on over to allagesofgeek.com and check that out. And yes, please guys, if you guys are using if you guys are getting these books out there, we all want to receive them in pristine condition. So if you guys would, I would love, especially Ben would love, because he made that really awesome video, and we really need to make sure that he is able to use that. We can use it every
Any
single time.
excuse to make my dumb little cartoons. Yeah, absolutely.
He's got
another
really cool one. We'll see here in a second. But use Geek Collective 10 at checkout and get yourself a 10% off for your Gemini mailing supply. Anything you guys need there, just grab it up. It also helps keep this show free. We are able to have this seat and give you guys this seat on here for free because we have that sponsorship that pays for this streaming service. So we appreciate everything that you guys do. Everybody out there is using it, which is able to pay for this. So thanks a whole bunch for everybody who uses it, and we appreciate that you guys continue doing with your continued support. Now on to the good stuff here. You talked a little bit, Dan. I'm gonna hit you here a little bit because you seem like you are the marketing vet here. You said you got 25 years under your belt here. So talk to me a little bit about what you do differently than what you see normally in the Kickstarter space that you've done with this campaign or some of the other campaigns that you've done lately.
Okay, so one of the things that that I picked up from other people watching everybody on Instagram, and the Instagram being like a really big tool in and of itself, first of all, is the live launch. Okay, the live launch for me, I think, is a great way. And Dennis knows this too. He's a 7-minute man on the on Kickstarter. And so that's a distinction I guess we both have, don't we? We both funded our books, a book in 7 minutes. And so that was pretty fun. And the reason that I think those are successful as quickly as they are, 10 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever, 15 minutes, is that we've done these live launches for the campaigns, really making the launch of the book an event. Okay. Anybody can just flip the switch and that's great. Okay, guys, we're live, But, so for me, like on, May 14th, we're going to be going live at 7 p.m. Central Time. And so about 6:30 that day, we're going to put it on live. Myself, Casey Allen, my co-writer, Dennis, Drew, Chris, we're all going to be jumping in and out of the live stream, pumping up the event that day. We're going to probably do some trivia or do, a raffle giveaway, that sort of thing, to get some original art, stuff like that, and get people into the live. What ends up happening is we'll have all the people will come in, we'll be talking, we'll bring in different artists and writers, creators, that sort of thing will come in and out of the live that night. As they're coming in and out, we're getting more eyeballs on the live because every time somebody goes into the live launch, they are going to sends out an alert on their Instagram. Hey, Bill's going live. with Dan and Chris and Dennis and Casey and Drew and whoever. So it's just this homogenization of audiences is all we're really going for. We're looking for eyeballs that night. So and I invite all three of you guys to come on to the live that night, pitch your books, pitch your Kickstarters, pitch your show, because it's where we do see results. It's been really awesome because we've had over 250 people watch a live launch for a comic book launch, and that's pretty great considering, I've got, me personally, have about 3,400 followers on Instagram. So to have that kind of a grab of the market is really great. And so seeing that work as effectively as it does, definitely it's something that we keep repeating campaign after campaign. Something that I like to do on my campaigns personally is we do deluxe editions of the books. So we do a regular edition of the comic and then a deluxe edition. The deluxe edition gives us an extra tier, something that's different from just a regular book. So I'll use like my issue 1 as an example. Issue 1 was a 30-page story, but we did a deluxe edition that was 48 pages. It had the same story in there, but then we put in an art gallery in the back of the book from some of the fan art that we received. Bigfoot Knows Karate's been really fortunate when it comes to fan art. We've received at least 250 pieces of fan art at this point. People really have gravitated to drawing the character, and so we're really humbled and blessed to receive that kind of support, for the character, and to see everybody's different, look and design for Benny. It's just awesome. So we take some of those really great pieces and we put them in the back of the deluxe editions of our book. The other thing that we do in the deluxe edition on all our books is we do, you remember director's commentaries on DVDs?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we do a director's commentary in the back of the book. You click on a QR code, and that QR code takes you to a YouTube video that is like 4, 5, 6 talking heads talking about the book ad nauseum. And we go through the book page by page, break it down. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? That sort of thing. We've been really lucky to have Kat, the high-heeled gamer, host our director's commentaries for us. Dennis has been on one before, actually, too. And he's such a great guy, that Dennis Valencia. And so so those are a couple of different things that we do to differentiate Bigfoot Knows Karate from other books that are out there.
So what are the price differences between your guys' regular price editions and your deluxe edition?
So regular editions are usually like $8-10, right, for a regular book. And then deluxe editions.
And how many pages is that?
30 to 36. This new issue I have coming out now is 39 pages. That'll be coming out on May 14th. And so then I think we're doing 15 for the deluxe edition on this go around, and it's going to have another art gallery in there. Most of it's going to be done by the Odd Contenders from Instagram. If y'all aren't familiar with them, go search out the Odd Contenders. They're a drawing group on the platform. They're fantastic.
And then how many Kickstarters is this for you?
This will be my fourth.
Okay.
Yes,
and
sir.
You've been in the business for how long now?
I did my first comic in 2007. And I did comics until about 2013, took a break and came back to it. My book's a pandemic baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is
that how long you've been kind of building up your base as well?
Building it up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a really good thing to talk about there too, right? If you're talking about it, you've been in the business for since 2006, so you know a little bit of the business side of this thing. You know how the old stuff, how the new stuff kind of works, and then you're also looking at this from a standpoint of new success, right, within the last 5 years. So taking that into consideration, some of these things that you talked about. I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, yes, sir. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So taking some of those things in consideration, some of these things may not completely work for somebody who's brand new into this, right? So what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's completely new and maybe not, maybe doesn't have the following that they that somebody would need to run a live launch and actually get some kind of gain out of it?
That's going to be that's the first biggest challenge, isn't it? Is your social game. I mean, it's you know, for me, the reason I'm on Instagram is because it's the social media platform the most sense for me. It was visual. It was completely visual. It's just I started just drawing and posting, working my way back into making comics again. And I think that, you know, you have to reach your audience somehow. For me, live draws were a big deal to building an audience. Okay, because for the longest time, I was just drawing.
See, Ben, I told you drinking draws are going to be good. I told you those are good ideas.
Well,
Oh my God.
Actually, I tried that, but my drawing program, when I try to screen share it, it like flickers in the most like upsetting way. So we'll see if we can get that sorted out.
I mean, Dennis and I, how many live draws have we done together over the years, Dennis? I mean, half a dozen.
Let me tell you this. How many of you guys have seen Dan's live draws? Have you guys seen it? I'm going to blow it up, Dan.
Sorry, I'm horrible.
Dan draws with his finger. I know. Yeah. I wish I was kidding. He draws with his pointer finger. And
I draw with my mouse.
Well, he uses his mouse. Ben uses, and it's not like crazy. A really great mouse. It's not one of those amazing like ergonomic mouse.
Yeah.
It's
the Amazon Basic Special.
It's the ugliest thing.
Amazing.
I draw with my mouse half the time too, Ben. All my coloring's done with my mouse for sure. Most of my drawing's done with my fingertip on my screen. Are you an Illustrator guy?
Yeah.
Okay. Me too. That's what it's the Illustrator people, man. We love our mouses and
funny. Yeah. So okay, that's great. So we're talking a little bit about what it takes to put your book out there and put it in front of a new audience and gaining a new audience. So what would you consider being the first step to getting your base to grow?
Make friends with the community. That's what they're there for. I mean, like seriously, whether it's like meeting Dennis over Instagram or meeting Braxton across the aisle from me over at Heroes Con, make friends with people. I mean, like it's you'll find your tribe, so to speak, the people that you can count on and that you'll work with and that will back you up and will tell you when you're not doing the right thing. You'll find your people, but never be, you're on social media anyway. So what are you scared of to put yourself out there? You might as well. It cannot hurt. And I mean, I get DMs from people I don't know all the time. Hey, I saw your stuff on Instagram. I see what you're doing. I'd love to talk to you. And sure, I'll help. When I first did comics in 2007, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. It was just me, a marker, and a piece of paper, and figuring it out. I did a comic with a dude who had a rubber on his head. I mean, like this is what happens when you're left to your own devices, kids. So, make some friends. Don't steer you in the right direction. Please do yourself a favor. So anyway.
No. So what I'm hearing is be open to meeting new people and to having new experiences and kind of getting to see how things go on the other side of the fence. I love that. That's some great advice because, when you come into such a small community, it could be a little daunting, right? I mean, comic books are crazy and it's all. There's so many different things we could talk about, and we can go on and on and on about all the crazy controversies that happen in the comic book industry, right? But when you are getting into this and trying to show and prove your worth, because you believe in this story, you believe in this artwork, you believe in this team, it can be very daunting to put yourself out there, right, and do these kinds of things. So what else would you give advice to someone to what would you do if you were brand new into getting yourself out there? We talked about getting the brand new meeting new people, but what about if we were tabling for the first time? What would you do?
Okay. What would I personally do? Tabling it the first time, find a gimmick find a gimmick that works for you. You got to get people in the door. I'm going to go back to the rubber guy for a second, okay? Just because that was my very first comic. It was my very first convention. In fact, the very first convention I did was a convention called Staple here in Austin. It actually happened this weekend. I went to yesterday's show. It was great. I showed up. I moved to Austin on May 2nd. My comic books arrived at my apartment on May 1st, and my show was on May 3rd. This was my very first convention. I had 100 copies of my book, Latex Avenger. He had a sidekick spermicidal foam lad. Together, they repelled crime 99.9% of the time. Anyway, side point. Anyway, so I went to the convention. I show up. My girlfriend's with me. I put my books on the table, and she was like, "Hey, what do you got?" I said, "What do you mean? What do I got?" She goes, "What do you got?" And I said, she's like, "You have a tablecloth? No. Do you have business cards? No. Do you have this? No. Do you have that? No. What do you have? I have 100 copies of my comic book. That's what I got. Never done this before. I didn't know anything, So she's like, "I'll be right back." She runs out. This is the best thing she brought to the relationship. I got to be honest with you. She comes back, and she brings a big bag of Hershey Kisses and about 48 prophylactic rubbers. Okay, and drops them on the table with a tablecloth and says, "Okay, every time you sell a comic, you give them one of these." I said, "Okay, deal." And let me tell you something. I used to order those things 500 at a time. I sold so many comics after that, man. All right, every time I would.
That's absolutely correct. No, you're right. You're right. Have a gimmick.
This is kind of getting to be a lot of information. But I used to go to conventions, and people would be like, they'd pick one up on a Friday and thank me on a Saturday, and you'd be like, "Rock on," And
yeah,
so
no, that's you're right. You're right. You like when you can use props or make them work with your comic book to get that pitch right, because it's about you, especially in a larger con where there's where it's really a lot of people, right? They're moving fast some right. So you got to really catch them, and when you're trying to catch them, what are you gonna do? You gotta have a really good pitch. You can't sit there and be like, well, it's about, and then have a very long drawn out thing, right?
No,
you gotta catch them quick. One of our things we have a. Go ahead.
I used to have miniatures. I still do, of my superheroes. I had this guy online who made them, and he made it. They're articulate and everything with joints and whatnot. And I would just have them sitting at the table, so that a kid will come by and go, "Oh my God, you got toys!" I'm like, "Yeah." You can buy those for like $200, or you can go ahead and get a comic, And so then I just have a conversation after that. But your display is so important, just to kind of make people kind of look. I see people, and I just catch eyes with them. They walk by, they start looking at the table, kind of, and they go, "Hey, come on over." You invite them over and just have a conversation with them before you even start talking about marketing. And so,
that's the biggest thing. That's part of it, right? Is you got to think about it. Think about outside of yourself a little bit, right? If you're walking through, if you were the person walking through like a swap meet or something like that, you're going to be scanning those tables, right? Or like my wife likes to point out yard sales when I drive down the road, right? And you're scanning those tables for anything good. So because if you've been together for over 20 years now, you know what to do, right? So you scan those tables. So people are doing that, man. And if you don't have something fun and intriguing on your table to pull those and bring those people in, you're probably gonna be sitting down the whole time, not twiddling your thumbs and wondering why you're there, right? We have a magazine that's on our table, right? And we had Benjamin here, our co-host here. He did a homage to the Wizard magazine, right? And because ours is a comic-sized magazine with articles and comic books and tips and tricks of the trade, right? So the way I pitch that is, if if they look at the thing, I tell them, "Hey, you guys know Wizard magazine?" And some will say yeah, some will say no. Well, do you know you've held a magazine, right? Well, hold this one in your hand, right? And then I give them the one comic book that we have that is embossed and has textured on the cover, right? And then I talk to them about that as they're touching it. Then I pitch them and I tell them the pitch, right? You got 3 comics, 3 articles about comic books and tips of the tricks of the trade. Boom, right there. They're already in there, right? So you got to have something short, sweet, and quick, and something that get them to come over. And one of the things is, right, when you're talking to them, here's a marketing thing. Dan, you probably knows, if you can get people say yes at least 3 times, they're probably going to purchase something. So you just got to work your own way your magic and how you get them to say yes.
That's a good Jedi mind trick. Never thought of that.
Very cool.
So we were talking about the social stuff, and Dan, what you were talking about with Instagram was really interesting because I've kind of struggled with, maybe just because I can't put a link in there as efficiently as I'd like to just get somebody on my Kickstarter because Instagram kind of wants to keep you there. But Braxton, because you were kind of coming to this from, initially just doing novels and stuff, and then you got into the comics, which of course are a lot more visual. How do you kind of use social media to promote all this stuff? Do you have do you kind of go for Instagram? Do you go for stuff that's a little more, do you like post extras from pros, or like how do you kind of try to communicate all that stuff on social, which is a lot more visual?
Right. No, novels are really about, you have to get some kind of a social proof, something that you've done to make people say, oh man, you might actually have a skill set. So I do panels when I go to conventions. You become an expert on something. Well, if you've written for over 10 years, like I have, you're somewhat of an expert. Anything you do for 10 years, you're an expert in it, as long as you've done it efficiently and within some kind of structure. So I'm really a key component, my big thing is staying within 3-act structure. So I do it within my comics, I do it in my screenplays, I do it in my novels, and I want to stay consistent with that. So I've talked about 3-act structure so much that I could do it in my sleep. And when I go and I start telling people, hey, you can actually write a good comic book with the hero's story, which is basically 3-act structure from beginning to end. If you can cram all of that into a comic book, and you can still leave it open-ended to a point where you draw them into the next one, now you've got something you're going with. So I post when we get book awards and recognition for anything for any of our authors or even myself, we post those on social media. Most likely for your situation, Benjamin, if you're going to try to get links, you have to put them in your story. So it's only going to last for 24 hours.
Okay.
Is there, and they can click on that link. You can put the little fingers on there pointing to the link, just have people drawn in and go. And you get so much conversion just from those stories, more than you do with just still pictures or even the reels, because there's no links through Instagram. We also have
another tip there with that link.
That's a
right?
real good tip.
When you throw a link in your story or and stuff like that, make sure that if you're using a vanity link that goes to the Kickstarter or wherever you want them to go, also using Linktree or something like Linktree. But actually, if you can't afford purchasing the upgrade tiers, right? Use the free tiers, but I would suggest using at least one or two of the upgrade tiers, because what you can now do is you can now customize that link tree to make it look really good looking. You can make it to look on brand with your colors, because you can throw your own color palette formulas in there, and you can also now make your links wiggle and move and do these really fun things, so that when people go to their link tree and that thing's up right up front, and it's moving, they're gonna want to click on that because it's moving, right? So there's many different things that you could do with links. You could do QR codes and all these fun different things to play around with that and to throw them all out there, because a lot of people, they will use that. They'll take pictures of your QR codes and they'll click on them later on. So but the best thing is to make sure that you get them to click on that QR code and follow or click on something right then and there in front of you somehow, some way, because the more if you're likely to get them to click on it while they're in front of you, you're more likely to get them to click on it and purchase later on.
Yeah, and like you say, it's a visual medium, Benjamin. So if you don't have anything visual, you really don't need to be on Instagram, So I even do book trailers. We do book cover releases, and they're all video. So video is moving. You don't want to have it really, really long. People have to sit there and wait for something to happen. It needs to be an instant. You make the announcement, and then you start to show them visuals, and you just want to see what the follow through is. We also have a newsletter, over 6,000 readers that we just pick up. We pick up, hey, you bought the book. If you want to be stay up to, in the know of what we got coming out soon, would you mind signing up for our newsletter? And we get them right there at the convention. So we just kept those emails and things. Yes, people sign them, and sometimes they'll unsubscribe, but you still get more hits than you don't. So you just keep sending it out.
No, that's good stuff. I think I've seen people emphasize newsletters so much in the last couple of years. And I think that's really smart, because you have, obviously Twitter's changed a lot in terms of just people wanting to go there for other reasons, but also just the algorithm changes. And I think crowdfunding platforms do the same thing. There was a big thing with Kickstarter using blockchain. A lot of people were upset about that a few years ago, and thankfully that's died down. But it really does highlight how much we're at the mercy of these platforms, and to have the newsletters like, hey, this is your thing, and 6,000, that's amazing, dude.
You gotta be consistent with the newsletters, right? And you gotta stay on have a routine, stick to the routine, because the one thing that social media or any of those kind of social gathering sites love, it's not necessarily the content. More power to you. Do amazing things, because this is a visual medium. But be consistent, because social media loves consistency over quantity every time. So make sure you guys are doing that. That's the big key. Stay consistent. If you don't feel like you can be consistent, play around with it and test it out and see it to your capacity, right? Everybody has their own kind of capacity of what they can and cannot do. So stay healthy. That's number one. Let's kind of move on next to our next segment here. Please let's throw us into our next segment there, Ben.
All right. The first book we wanted to show is Angel Hunter by Rich Davis. Rich was supposed to be on a few weeks ago, couldn't make it. I think we're going to have him on soon. This is a really cool book. It's in pre-launch now. It's got 118 followers, which is good to see. I love what I saw. The first promo image that really heavily featured this logo just had such a great vibe to it. I thought, man, that just feels like 90s anime PlayStation 1 game. The story is pretty awesome as well. Joey, you know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this follows 13 angels who kind of fell from heaven, right? And a world that is trying to reel from something like that, and it follows them and their kaiju Nephilim. It's a really cool thing. It's a really gorgeous manga inspired tale. I think it is kind of leaning more towards manga. So definitely want to check this one out. Richard Davis did all kinds of really great stuff, so you're definitely going to want to check this one out. Right now, you guys can go to Geek Collective. I gotta find I'll send out all you guys all the links and all that stuff. But you can go onto Geek Collective's website and actually flip through the actual PDF of the format of this book in its entirety. This is 96 to 100 something pages of gorgeous black and white books pages here, so you're definitely going to want to check this out. It's really cool stuff by Les Gardner and Rich Davis.
Absolutely. Let's switch over to Orson Welles' Warrior of the Worlds. I just love the concept of this when I first saw it. The art's fantastic. I'm a big Orson Welles fan, but this looks fun.
From our pal Milton Lawson, who has written this amazing tale of what if Orson Welles, the story that he told over the broadcast radio, was actually real, and he was an interstellar warrior fighting aliens. He would shoot movies during the day and shoot aliens at night. Fantastic story. Listen, this one has been in kind of this has been in kind of limbo for a handful of years because he had a contract with a publisher, and then things didn't happen, and then now he's got rights again, and now he's able to put this out there, and then more fun things are going to be happening because he's moving things around, and there's going to be some more amazing things that are going to be coming out centered around this storyline and this book. So please keep an eye out there. I can't say a lot more because he's got a lot of really amazing things in the works. So this one's going to be around for a while, so please check this one out. This is a full graphic novel, so you'll get to get the story in its entirety, over 120 something plus pages, I believe. I don't know exactly how I got to look at that, but gorgeous art, amazing covers. Milton, if you know anything about Milton Lawson, he loves his Orson Welles like history and all that stuff. He had an amazing time researching this, and he's working with the Welles estate on this one. So this one's definitely something you're going to want to check this one out.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
That's crazy.
I love this page here.
Yeah.
Like this is such a cool, like reminds me of J.H. Williams, just like the panel
So
layout.
cool.
It's a great drawing. The color style is amazing. It really sophisticated, appealing, simple stuff. Can't say enough good things about that. But
I interviewed him a few weeks back, and what he told me here was this was kind of like a meeting of the minds of like this alien is facing off with Orson Welles, and Orson Welles is fighting this alien's power to kind of mind manipulate him with all of these different scenarios that he's thinking of, and you get to see all these amazing thoughts in his head that he's fighting this alien with, drawn out in many different panels that are kind of broken up, and it looks like these broken fragments of
Genius.
glass almost, or a mirror, and it's amazing to kind of look at, and it's a full page spread.
the image is so
Gorgeous
cool.
colors.
Love that
Amazing. Yeah, love
Milton
All right.
is Milton is just such a great guy. Can I just say that real quick? He is. I know him very well. We got each other on speed dial. Also, fellow Astros fan, so you can't go wrong with that. But no. But seriously, go back this book. I got I have the first issue of it when he had the first issue as a floppy, and I've backed the campaign. I can't wait for this book. It's going to be badass.
Yeah, Milton's amazing. I've known Milton for man, it's been like 8-10 years now, almost, so getting close to that. He was actually part of the Geek Collective podcast network. So when he had his podcast, so so you guys could still listen to those archive episodes on Geek Collective now if you guys like. So check it out.
Cool.
Please check it out, because he's got some amazing stuff. He's an amazing interviewer. He has amazing guests on, so please go check it out. It's amazing.
Cool. All right, we're going to switch over to my book, We Are Scarlet Twilight, Cobalt Crisis Part 1. This is the sequel to We Are Scarlet Twilight. I wasn't sure I was going to come back to this one. I had kind of a rough idea, but it just didn't seem to click or be worth doing. And I was reading Crisis on Infinite Earths a few years ago and thought actually doing something like this, but in the 1940s, 1930s sort of pulp style, reminiscent of the Golden Age of comics, but with the events of the big two crossovers, I thought, yeah, that makes it work. Using that as a framework and giving you stuff you're familiar with, but with the atmosphere and the fun stuff of the Golden Age that you really haven't seen before. I'm going to be launching this in a few weeks, probably early May, late April. We've got the covers up now. I've almost done with the first issue. Need to fulfill the rest of the previous book, Countdown to Cobalt Crisis. But this one's going to be a lot of fun. It's basically everything you love about those big two crossovers. The universes colliding, characters you wouldn't expect to see together having to interact, character deaths, just earth-shattering stuff, all done with the sort of retro 1940s Golden Age of comics style. So I think it's going to be something you haven't quite seen before, with a lot of tropes and things that are fun that we really just enjoy about those older comics. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm having a ton of fun drawing and writing it, and just couldn't be more excited to share it out to everybody. So head over to
it's
to this
freaking
and check
fantastic. I love this story. You guys can check out a little piece of this story in Archetypes issue number 1. So if you guys are wanting to check that out, if you guys want to, you can read it, I believe, for free on Global Comics right now. Just go to Global Comics and then type in Geek Collective or /Geek Collective, and you can read issue 1 of Archetypes, our independent geek culture magazine, and you can see a piece of a character from the story inside the book.
Absolutely. And I think we want to switch to, unless I am forgetting something, our last book, which is Joey's. Joey, tell us about this one.
This one is my own creation. I created this story of a thought that kind of came to me when I was listening to an old school kind of band that I listened to like in the early 2000s, right? I'm giving away my age now. So anyway, it kind of the song kind of talks about, talks a little bit about, how can I keep my beauty, and whether it's kind of running away from the wrinkles of time and eternal youth kind of type stuff, right? So I kind of thought about, okay, what this is really good. It kind of kept coming to me, and I came up with this idea with we go from Ben's story, which is 30s to 40s, right? So now we go to into the 50s here, where we meet Nora. Nora is this 1950s housewife. She lives in a community where perfection is everything, right? So she naturally wants to stay beautiful, make sure that she finds a beauty tip to stay as beautiful as long as possible. So she feels that reaching out to a clairvoyant is going to help her. When she meets Madame Louise wants a little bit more than just some good old fashioned green bills there, right? She wants a piece of her flesh. So a deal's going to be made for a small piece of her flesh. This one's gruesome, uh, crazy looking. Yeah, Ben, I don't know if I sent you that page there, the reveal page. Dude, I'm more than happy to show everybody
Let
that
me.
page.
I'm gonna have to
I could
scroll
send
up
it
a
to you.
ways. Let's see if I can find that
I
here.
could probably send it to you, but this one is freaking fantastic because we have
I
our
think I got
artist
it.
Brian Belando, who is an artist from the Philippines. This is here to go. This is our
Wow.
monster of the story. This is so. I don't want to give a lot away because if I tell you who this monster is, it'll tell you the whole thing. So this is the monster of the story, and we meet the monster within the first 10 pages of the issue here. We're going to go 3 issues, telling a 3-issue mini here, and then we probably have an idea to extend the universe into larger story. But we're going to start with this one and talk a little bit about this one. But this one's gorgeous. We got the all-star team that was on Pocus Hocus, Grandma Chainsaw, Horace in Hell, which is Alan Dunford. You got Dave Lentz, who's done all, like, if you could throw a rock at any Source Point book or any book on Kickstarter, and you're probably going to run into letters by Dave Lentz. He's the letterer. We got writer and scripting is my pal Alan Dunford, who's wrote a bunch of really great things as well. I created the story, and we're together developing this storyline and all that good stuff. He's taking the heavy lifting of scripting it. I just yell prompts at him, and then he writes it down. I'm the Stan Lee of the group, I guess. So this is some really creepy looking stuff that we're going to be jumping into there. We got some artists like Brian Belanda's doing our cover A. We got Ruben Mocho did our cover B. We have cover C from Kit Wallace, who's also done all kind. You can throw a rock at any book, any indie book in the comic shop, and he's probably did a cover. So he's going to be doing, and then Ben's going to be doing a really cool homage for us, because this one kind of deals with a little bit of beauty and, like, maybe not really being as beautiful as you are inside. We're going to do a Misfits homage. We're going to do a Die My Darling Misfits homage cover, and Benjamin W. Morse is going to do that one for us.
Yeah, looking
We're
forward
going to
to
do
it.
some really, really fun stuff. We're doing free shipping on this one. We're also doing if you buy one, you get the second one half off. So if you buy one copy, you can buy a second copy for a friend and give them the gift of horror, right? So definitely want to check this one out because we are really wanting the story to kind of just be into people's hands and into your heads and give you guys nightmares, because I really needed to get this one out of my head so that now it's going to be in your guys' head. So head on over to Geek Collective or Kickstarter and check out Geek Collective on their Kickstarter. And we are going to be launching this one in mid to late May.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just wrap up. We're going to basically remind all our readers where to find you guys. Braxton is the Cosby Media Productions, the best place to get your books and to kind of join in this universe.
Absolutely, yeah. CosbyMediaProductions.com. There you'll find links to everything that we have. We have our storefront page. If you go to the storefront, you can pick up the comics there, and then the books that actually link to them. Like I said, we have multiple series. We have dystopian zombie fiction in the Broken series. We have the superhero stuff, and we also have a space bounty hunter series called Steel Rain. So that's all available for you there. But also, if you just want to kind of peruse the site, and see what some of the authors have. We have on the front page, we have all the genres. We have fantasy, we have science fiction, we have self-help, poetry, the whole 9 yards, some of our hot comics out. So if you just scroll down, you're bound to find something that you like. If you're looking for some good original storytelling, it's all in one place.
Very cool. So definitely head over there. And Dan and Dennis, is HBH Comics the best way to find you guys?
Homebrewedcomics.com, hbhcomics.com, they lead to the same place. So that's a great place to find us. If you're also trying to find different events and stuff we're going to, you can also go check out bigfootknowskarate.com. I'll have all my events there. And then, but all of our Kickstarters will get you right here on the homebrewedcomics.com. Dennis, is there anything we're missing?
No, I mean, I'll be at Heroes with Chris Sahloff in June. Free Comic Book Day, I'll be signing issues at Collecting Problems if anyone's down in South Carolina. But those will pretty much be at least our local appearances.
All right. Sounds good. Well, guys, I've had a great time talking to you. I hope everybody watching has had a great time watching and hearing about these great books and everything you guys are bringing to the table in terms of like get your books out there, all the creative stuff and putting together. It's been awesome. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it. So we'll see everybody next week where we'll talk to some more creators about some great comic books. Take it easy, everybody.